Hello there. In this lecture, we'll discuss about Spark RDDs. An RDD is a basic unit of data in Spark upon which all operations are performed. And you can consider RDD as an immutable collection of objects. And each RDD is split into multiple partitions which may be computed on different nodes of a cluster, right? Now, RDD can be of any data type that is supported by either the programming languages such as Spark, Scala, Python, Java, or R languages. Okay, uh, RDDs, right? It can be created on top of any Hadoop source, and uh, any input format that is supported by Hadoop, right? Using that input format, an RDD can be created. Now, there are two different ways of creating an RDD. Let me just show you how to create an RDD using a parallelise method in this video. To create an RDD, you can use any of the sequences, arrays or lists or tuples which are there in Scala, and using those you can create an RDD with a parallelise method, right? Let me just first create a array of integers. Otherwise I'll put this way, int array, and I'll create an array of an integer. Okay, now the array is ready. To create an RDD, you just have to use int RDD, and you have to use sc method. So the basic difference you can see here is to create any Spark related items such as an RDD or a data frame or a data set, you have to use Spark related context, Spark context or a Spark session, right? Uh, those are the classes using which you can create RDDs or data sets or a data frame. Now to create an RDD, I have to use a parallelise method which is there in under sc, which is a Spark context object. Under that I can pass it int array, and you can see an RDD of type RDD int has been created, right? uh, Now we have that RDD, right? To see the contents of an RDD, there are few methods or available. To see the first a row or a first element in an RDD, you can just use a method called first, which will show you the first method or the first element in your RDD. Now to see top or the first 4 or 5 elements or a first n number of elements in your RDD, you can use a method called take. Suppose I want to take 3 elements in my RDD, and just use this, right? And you can see when I'm using the take method, it is returning an array of elements, and which are 1, 2, and 3, and right. To see entire collection of the RDD or to see entire content of the RDD, you can use a method called collect, which will print entire elements of an RDD. And you can see here in collect method also is returning an array of elements or array of numbers. But you want to access individual element or individual content of an RDD, you can pass this collect or a take method to each method, and you can uh, I'm just using a println, right? I can use any other method or any other thing here, but I'm just using a println method. So what I'm trying to do, whatever elements that I've returned from a collect method, I'm taking each element and I'm printing that element onto the console, right? And you can see all the elements which are there in the RDD are being printed on the console. Now, I was telling when we are creating an RDD, right? RDD will be split into multiple partitions, right? Even the RDD which we have created using a parallelise method, it will be created into multiple partitions. To see how many partitions an RDD is created into, or RDD is split into, you can use a method called RDD int RDD dot partitions dot size. It is showing like there are 4 partitions which are created for int RDD, right? When you are creating an RDD with this method, which is parallelise method, you can specify how many partitions you have to create on your RDD, right? The more number of partition, the more number of parallel processing can be happen, right? Suppose if you have 5 partitions and your cluster has 5 cores or 6 cores of processing power, then each partition will be given to a partition. Each partition will be given to a particular core. That means 5 cores will be executing on the 5 partitions which are available, right? The more the number of partitions, the better the parallelism, the better the performance of your job. Now, when you are creating an RDD, if you want to specify the number of partitions you want to create with it, you can specify something like that. Suppose I want to create int. Let me just create an int list, okay, and I'll just create a list of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. I have created a list of integer. Now to create an RDD list RDD, I'll just use sc dot parallelise and I can pass in int list, and you can see an RDD is being created here. Now the same thing, right? With partitions, if I want to create, I can use in list RDD. I cannot use int list RDD sc dot parallelise int list, and I can pass in the number of partitions I want to use. Suppose if I want to use 6 number of partitions with this, then I can pass in as a 6, and you can see it is created. To see the contents or to see the partitions of the list RDD, you can use int list RDD dot partitions dot size, and you can see 6 partitions are being created. Let's just check what are the number of partitions that are created for the same RDD, list RDD. By default, list RDD dot partitions dot size, and you can see there are 4 partitions created for that, but I'm asking I'm asking Spark context to create, or a Spark to create 6 partitions on top of my list RDD, right? So this is how you create an RDD using a parallelise method, and you can also mention number of partitions that you can create for your RDD, right? So this is one way of creating an RDD, and in the next video we'll see how to create an RDD with a text file which is stored, right? That's it for this lecture, guys, and see you in the next lecture. Bye.